All right. It is, I didn't even know the date today. Oh, look at that. Chris showed up as I was starting. Okay, it is Thursday, April 15th at 7:01 PM. We'll call this meeting to order of the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting.
Tony, somebody's got their television on.
Yeah,
It's kind of blotting you out.
I'm getting to it. All right, let's see here. Chris, I saw you hop in. Are you ready?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can. I just make it. Sometimes it takes a minute for audio. Chris DeRozier, I'm assuming you're here now that you answered me.
I'm here.
Bruce.
Yo,
Jonathan Kastner.
I'm here.
nearly,
Alan Parody.
won't interrupt you.
Stan Reinheimer.
Here.
Marion Stay.
Here.
And Christy Stroud. Not here. All right, so I'm going to seat Marion in the vacancy and Stan in Christie's seat. So we're both here actively. Moving on, item number 3, acceptance of application, zoning text amendment application, section 4.10.2, .2, applicant Kevin Teskey, 61 Main Street, Deep River. Get that in front of me. And I saw Kevin pop in. If you would throw out what you have in front of us here.
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Okay.
If you guys can hear me, I think you can.
All right, so what are we looking at here? It looks like
So-
a zone change.
So if you guys recall, I was here on February 18th, and we went over this. We went over this at that time. We were kind of talking about if the properties around me are using their properties multifamily, I guess is the right way to say it. But we're all general commercial district zoning,
Yep.
which we kind of went over as, not really fitting for what we have in this area. So I was trying to, as you could see, based on the proposal that I sent, I was trying to find a way to give the ability to do that, by applying for special permit or a special exception in some way.
Okay. I think. Well, I'm just gonna. If my memory is, I'm just gonna try to remember that. I thought we were just gonna, because it was at that. It's the yellow section on the map that I don't have in front of me,
Yep.
which only covers a couple of properties. I think we're just gonna add the multifamily to that zone. Is that?
Yeah. Right. But as you can see in here, there are some general commercial district zone properties on the southern side of Deep River, like, over by, I guess like over by exit 3 or exit 4. I'm sorry. At the Essex and Deep River line. So in here, I propose to put it north of Spring Street only, because that would cover everything around me and keeps it away from there.
Anybody
If
else?
you were worried about that. I'm not sure if you are, but I may be if I was in your shoes, so.
Well, I'm doing a little search here. So just for everybody's clarification, they can see the map okay? It's the yellow area here.
No, we can't see the map.
Okay, I'm sorry, to reshare, sorry. Okay, how about now?
Yeah.
There we go.
So it's this yellow area here that he's referring to, and there is also down at the very end of town, a little yellow area. That's the zone that he is in. And I think he's looking for direction from us, which way he thinks we should have him go. Let's see. Anybody have an opinion on that? Out of the 3 options here?
Mr. Chairman,
Fire away, Jonathan.
well, probably just the only people who were on the commission at the time when that zoning was done are me and Bruce. And we're too old to be able to remember anything like that. But, and I have to make note here that I and my wife are owners of a property at the corner of Spring and Main Street, which is currently on the market, not at this meeting. just thinking about the direction that the commission has taken over the years, I'm kind of surprised, first of all, that I didn't remember, but more than that we would not want to continue the Main Street, the first floor retail or other professional on the main floor with the possibility of residential above, as we have done north of Spring Street and in other areas of town. This may be something that the commission should consider, rather than just trying to fix what's there, make a determination of what it should be from Spring Street on north.
Option one, basically.
If we did that though,
Mhm.
and if you look at the majority of, I think all of the buildings actually on the east side of the road, they're all appear to the eye as single family. They don't appear as multifamily. They might have an accessory apartment, but you can't really readily see that. If we went the village district way, would that prohibit somebody from living on the first floor? That would be my only concern.
Well, certainly that's what we tried to effect in the area north of Spring Street, the block just before you get to the gazebo. Over time, the first floors have been turned into retail, mostly, or commercial, with residential upstairs. That makes, first of all, it enhances our Main Street the more we have of it. I also believe that in a district like that, you're better off to have the mixture of commercial downstairs and residential upstairs. It makes for a more vibrant community.
But would that force him to have, instead of basically a two-family, it would be commercial on the first floor and residential on the second floor?
I guess we have the opportunity to write whatever zone, whatever wording we want to do for what we call that zone. I don't know if we're pushing it and trying to cut things up, cut them too fine.
I'm just going to chime in for a second here. So the village commercial, which is the adjoining zone, it is multifamily is allowed. It doesn't exclude first or second floor.
No, it's prohibited, Tony. There's an X.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm used to all the regulations where the X is the only way you can do it. I'm sorry. No, but wait a second.
I think both X and blank is prohibited.
That's right. That's what it is. Okay.
Just
So-
not, yeah.
Okay.
Prohibited?
Yeah, X and blank are prohibited. Sorry about that. So we're gonna, I keep going back to the stuff on the, I gotta look at a map. As you're driving down the road heading to Chester, on the right-hand side, those are all multifamily homes. And I believe there is one more on the left-hand side.
Yeah, there should be right across the street from me, past Kirkland Commons. If you're going north,
Yeah.
on the left, yeah.
Yeah, so on the west side of the road, there's the corner, which is Jonathan and his wife's structure, which looks like a residence, but obviously it's been transformed to retail. And then Kirtland Commons. And then I think there's a small house after that.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
And then on the right side, or excuse me, on the east side, again, it all appears to be residential at this moment. I think on the corner of Kirtland Street is what used to be the Ivory. It's landing on Main, and then it goes to residential, and then it goes to the commercial. And then on the corner of Winter is industrial, Village Industrial, I think.
Yes.
And
So-
so all of those, I mean, the trick is that, you know, the multifamily that are already in that area are pre-existing non-conforming, so they can remain multifamily. The problem with Kevin's property is that it's existing residential, but it's existing one-family residential. And, you know, changing it to a mixed use would force him to abandon the residential downstairs
Right.
and just have it upstairs if he wanted to do anything with the property. But he could keep it as a single family residential, which doesn't help either the town's goals if they want it to be commercial,
Right.
or Kevin's goals.
And Kevin, I'm assuming you wanted it residential on the first floor, or you just wanted an accessory apartment? Is
I
that
want it
correct?
residential on the first floor. I want to live here.
Okay,
So you wanted a two family, one way or the other.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, we eliminated it from town, which, I mean, I don't know if anybody's been following zoning. That's become a huge problem in Connecticut anyway. So for me, I would like to see multifamily brought back in, especially since there's so many multifamily homes in Deep River, but that's just me. So,
So I guess, you know, I think the simplest way would just be to add, you know, multifamily special permit in the general commercial, although that, you know, it seems to, you know, betray a little bit of the idea of general commercial. But the fact is, we're only dealing with, you know, a dozen properties total. So you know, I think the actual, you know, psychic damage to our collective, you know, concept of what general commercial is probably not that big a deal, especially if it's special permit.
So if we make this change for that zone, this allowing the special permit in the zone, it's going to apply to that general commercial on the other end of Main Street as well. So we need to weigh in that consideration. It may be a moot point. To me, part of the what we're wrestling with here is kind of the gerrymandering of zones, that we carved out these little parcels to apply, you know, to existing conditions or to intent or to the village district, et cetera. So it's especially when we split the zones across the street. I mean, to me, that's usually a very poor pattern when you have, you know, allow one use on one side of the street and a different use on the other side of the street. It really creates some conflicts there. So first, I want to make sure that if we're going to allow multifamily by special permit in this zone, that we address the implications on that zone where it exists, where we don't have multifamily already. We're essentially allowing that as special use.
So Tony, looking at Google Street View and that other zone, it's basically right as you get off the highway, exit 4, right, like 500 Main, that industrial area or that business area is on the left, and Berkshire Petroleum, the auto place, is most of that general commercial zone to the south. And then there actually is, well, yeah, there's like 3 relatively quiet businesses there. The old rental property. Yeah, right there. That's the general commercial portion at the south end of town, on the opposite side of the street from, you know, Pandemonium and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, well, I gotta back up for 1 second. I thought it said north of Spring Street, so not to affect, right? It said if the council is concerned with the GCD zone properties near the southern border of Deep River, the box can be populated to read special permit north of Spring Street. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of precedent for that. The regs are, divided up by, street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Lafayette one with the 0 setback,
That's what I mean.
right?
If it's-
Personally,
yeah.
I have some concerns with, starting to insert that language because it's subdividing zones now. And it's almost doing spot zoning, is that, in these, on this little section of the neighborhood, you can do this and everywhere else you can't. So personally, I
ask
think
a
that those
question?
types of exceptions begin to make the regulations difficult to use, and they grant exceptions and not define the norm.
Yeah. Well, right. So anybody who would do it on the southern end would have to ask anyway, and it could be, hey, this doesn't fit the area.
Yeah.
Agreed. Somebody was going to ask a question, but kind of.
I answered myself. I wondered if single-family houses were allowed in the general commercial, and they are not. So although they are allowed, they are allowed in the village multi-use zone.
Mhm.
Right.
So I'm wondering if we change the area to village multi-use, could he then do an accessory apartment? Because single family is allowed. Unless I'm reading that incorrectly.
Well, so accessory apartments are in a different section, or a different section of, 4.10.
And I think I gotta back up, this, I may be wrong because I do too many regulations, but I think their accessory apartments have to be a lot less square footage than the main residence.
Right, 400 feet, I believe.
Yeah,
And they have to be only accessory.
right.
Correct.
So if he does a split level, it wouldn't, it wouldn't fit what he's after.
Is there a way to not try to gerrymander this, to make a coherent zone change that might accomplish our goal without penalizing 61 Main Street? Is there a way that, because the timeliness of the application came in and I don't know, so that it would only apply to this property and maybe this owner?
Well,
My
I
answer.
mean, you could in, put in multifamily again, and this maybe runs into Alan's concern, but you could have, multifamily allowed in, existing residential structures that were established as of, April 2021. So you couldn't build a new one, but you could convert an existing one. And which does further sort of subdivide the zoning regulations. Although I would say, to Alan's question about spot zoning, don't worry about spot zoning. It's really not a thing that people sue or challenge and win, assuming the planning commission or the zoning commission can cite something in the plan of conservation and development that would make it appropriate, that would make it following the plan. You can spot zone. I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, I guess the first thing we should do is to decide what it is we want for that Spring Street to Winter Avenue. So that we can be, before trying to wheedle things around here, so that we have an agreement of what we look for in that half mile. Would we like it to be tend toward the retail and commercial? Would that be a goal of the commission?
But I don't think we're going to remove the retail. We're just going to add multifamily.
But it's not retail. It's not retail now. Am I right?
I have to agree with Jonathan on this because it seemed like there was a deliberate plan in changing the zone from what is the pattern of existing use to what appears to be a preferred pattern of development of expanding commercial on Main Street. So if you look at the pattern of use down on the end of Main Street, you do have, it doesn't fit the normal pattern of a residential neighborhood where you have businesses
Oh, I don't know.
mixed in. You've got more institutional type, assisted living structures. It's definitely an anomaly because you have a pattern of more historic use of residents in there. But there seemed to be a deliberate intent of expanding the commercial. And we got to look to the plan of conservation and development as to whether that is the objective of to encourage and create more opportunity for business and commerce, and move the residential function, off of what is really the main thoroughfare through Deep River. So,
Well, historically, of course, almost the whole Main Street was residential. When the industrial age came and it gradually came to Bridge Street and then gradually expanded south. So just natural growth and lack of any planning has allowed it to get to the place we are now. So we're really kind of digging new ground here.
I'm not sure that the east side of that particular stretch would even necessarily be good commercial. There's some topography issues. The lots are pretty small. It could almost go back to R30. I mean, that's what's in back of it and a portion of Main Street. In terms of the way it looks, and across the street, I mean, that's an anomaly too, because of Kirtland Commons,
Right.
which is definitely multifamily.
mhm.
Can the commission officially suggest or urge in a particular area, maybe defined by the streets and not by a zoning? Actually, that sounds now like it goes with the plan of development, but you might say specifically in there, although this section is blah, 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 there is reason to encourage the addition of first floor retail and commercial. Because there are going to be some properties there that.
Marion's point, though, is that it really isn't conducive to commercial. I agree with that because having looked at it since this initial discussion, we do have topography issues. We have parking issues, which again, if you're going to have retail business, you want to have parking at the frontage, unless it's you could have a professional use like a doctor, a lawyer, etc., that could have a business on the first level and modest parking behind. But at the same time, it's not the standard it's not conducive to standard pattern of commercial development. I think that this vestige, this little yellow splotch there, is in fact an anomaly, and I think it'd be better defined as being absorbed in one of the adjacent zones. I agree with you, Marion. It could be, revert to residential on that side of the street. I mean, it kind of moves against my typical preference to have the same zone across the street. But in this case, you already have that anomaly. You've got a pattern of use that maybe to the west of Main Street, it's a continuation of the village district, which again creates some latitude. And to the right, especially because you get that little piece of residential that's already coming to Main Street, make it more continuous and contiguous uses. I think in terms of if this was in fact identified to be, to convert from residential to commercial, I think there are better spots in Deep River for that to happen, especially with initiatives happening in other towns. If we look to the other end of Main Street, those are the areas that have commercial vacancies and greater commercial opportunity with the infrastructure to meet those needs. So, so given the options that it's Kevin, right? That Kevin presented to us, if I were to consider a change to our regulations, me personally, I would move toward a reassignment of that commercial zone, changing the lines so that it's absorbed into the abutting zones. So it's a more comprehensive pattern of uses and not a little anomaly or something that is, becomes an exception to the norm. So
if we're gonna switch it to the R30 zone, we're also gonna have to change that use because multifamily residence is not allowed in that either.
well, again, my position here is that as a zoning commission, we need to look at what is the appropriate pattern of use. I understand we have an applicant that has a desire for a particular property to fit a designation or meet the opportunity. Presently, it doesn't, and I'd be inclined to clarify what the appropriate zone is. And that should be our first mission. And it should also reflect the fact that, we've got an existing pattern of use there, which at some point in time, this commission has disallowed. And it's the prevalent, use in that area is multifamily, and then we went and disallowed it. So we need to take that into consideration as well. It's
Can I ask Kevin a basic question?
Yeah,
Again, for this and is multifamily perhaps maybe the incorrect word? Do you want an accessory apartment, or do you kind of want more of a two-family equal size units?
I'm looking for very
Go ahead.
similar size units. I'm looking for a two-family. I'm not looking for an accessory apartment.
Okay.
Okay, 69, which is right across from Spring Street, is a two-family, upstairs and down. Has been for years.
So, all right, so
We're
let's
actually share a driveway with a three-family at 63.
right. So let's back up a hair. So if we do if we made that change, we put them in the R30 and we try and change the R30 to multifamily, that affects a lot. That's half the town.
And and that's more than Mr. Teskey sort of wanted to take on. He didn't want to,
I agree.
ask for a change that would affect a bunch of his neighbors necessarily.
Yeah,
Tony,
go ahead.
excuse me. It occurs to me that because of my connection with property there, should I be keeping my mouth shut during this discussion?
John, what do you think?
I think you've made your potential conflict evident, and nobody's under any illusions that you're a totally neutral party here. I would
Okay.
say perhaps you may not want to vote on it if it might affect your property.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that. That'll be fine. Thanks.
John, at the same time, I think it's important for you to, since you have some history, you were involved with the commission, and although your memory may not be complete, you certainly have some history to contribute on why and when the change was made. So I value your input in the conversation.
Did I ask you to agree with me?
And you paid me. I think.
Nothing wrong with my memory. Well, thank you. That's the best answer I could have had. Thanks, Tony.
I'm glad I didn't have any part of it.
So I can't tell whose lips are moving.
All right, so back to the real problem at hand here. So let's quickly, because we've directed this guy once before to come up with these, and then we come up with them. I think we should narrow this down. Again, if we do make this multifamily in just these two little tiny zones, I'm
So-
going back.
Let's, I just want to back up. In what zones
Mhm.
is multifamily permitted as of right well, actually permitted, I should say as of right. Permitted.
And can we define multifamily?
I will do that. So right now, can you see my screen?
Because,
You actually can't. The multifamily isn't included in the Deep River definition.
well, yes, but dwelling multifamily is, and that's 3 or more
Uh-huh.
units. And then we have dwelling 2-family, which is obviously 2 units, as well as 1 family.
Oh, that's right.
So-
But we don't have a 2-unit in the schedule.
That's correct, but maybe that's where we should add, and then they could be equal. Whereas if you have an accessory apartment, the accessory is a lot less. It's, I think, 400 square feet. You can only do 1 bedroom, and there's a lot of other issues. Maybe we should allow 2-family.
We had an issue up on Prospect Street, I don't know, longer ago than I can remember, that had been a 2-family house. It burned, and the new owner of the property wanted to put up a 2-family house, and we had removed it from the regulations, but the appeal was granted. So anyway, it's at least 12 or 15 years since we have not had 2-family in the regs.
So I think so Kevin's use, if we were to define it, or look at where it could possibly be permitted, it looks like it's the village mixed use, right?
Yep.
Because if it's 2-family, you can infer from that it's more than 1. And that's the pattern of use that exists there. So if we were to expand any zone, it would be the village mixed use, which I believe on the map is the pink one, which essentially is across the street from Kevin's property. Correct? So if we were, I think the process here is that we have to go to a public hearing to discuss this, to discuss the merits of this in order to change our regulations. But it seems to me that if we're to define this zone to meet Kevin's interest, it would be to propose the expansion of that village mixed use across the street. In the village mixed use, I believe, keeps in play the possibility for commercial uses.
I'm actually not across the street from Village Mixed Use. I'm across the street from Kirtland Commons, which is general commercial district.
Could we bring up the map again? And can I say approximately across?
Actually,
what I'm
no.
trying to say is that you're in proximity.
Yeah, so it's the pink.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess toward my point, it might be a matter of if we were begin to test the idea that the yellow became pink, and we may end up with some non-conforming uses, but not of the magnitude of the non-conformity of the existing 2-family units, which is the predominance of that yellow area, east of Maine. So I'm just trying to figure out how we frame this in order to move down the road with, the right discussion. Me personally, I'm leaning towards a redefinition of that zone, absorb it into a zone of similar use. And to meet Kevin's objective, it seems like it's an expansion of the village mixed use. I'm not 100% on board with that yet, but I think that's the path that I personally would follow. So I'll leave
What's
it.
the description of the orange, that huge orange block?
That's the R30.
R30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the pink is the mixed use, which actually is the only place in town that's allowed to have multifamily.
Where's the pink?
It's immediately south of your property.
Oh,
I think the only
oh,
problem,
yeah, okay, the piano work, right, I see, right.
the only problem is then we might have to adjust the multifamily allowance in that to allow two-family and to allow residential on the first floor. That's the only problem with moving it to the pink, because I was leaning that way also. And I was going around in circles this morning, reading the zoning regs and trying to figure out what was allowed and what wasn't in each zone.
So what would, if I may, I'm not a commissioner here, but what about adding two family as a subcategory? And making them special permit in not only general commercial, but maybe a few others as well.
I would personally have no problem with that at all.
Like that myself. So,
Good idea, John.
Well, the only problem I have with it is by definition, general commercial is not residential. I mean, they're very different uses. So you say, well, you can do commercial or two family, and two family doesn't fit better than single family with commercial use. So that's I think we begin to lose the definition and the clarity.
Well, yeah, but the truth is, in this section of the general commercial zone, it really isn't, nor is it likely to be commercial.
I agree. I
So,
do not think that
this is-
yellow area up there is a commercial district. It's to me, that's an anomaly. I think we should leave the piece on the south end of Main Street. That is general commercial, and that is an area that I think needs to be studied in context what's happening in Essex with the overlay zones, and just in context to the opportunities that exist there for commercial development and interests of economic development. So I think they are distinctively different, so to categorize them the same, I think is problematic.
This is Stan. I just have a comment.
Yeah.
If you guys can hear me. It appears to me like the map was set up that the houses that are around that, they separated them out with the yellow because of multifamily, and they were trying to weed them out. And the other end, commercial district. But as far as multifamily, if we are added in those small areas, I mean, yes, it is general commercial. We got the auto shop and stuff down there, but looking forward into the future, as in like affordable housing and stuff, that might be an area on the south side that would allow multifamily. If that old gas station was gone and Taylor's is shut down, the rental place is shut down. So, and there are multifamily apartments down in that area.
If I may, I think under the section that I referenced in the proposal, that in village mixed use, it's capped at 4 units for multifamily residents.
Yes, that's correct.
So I don't know if that affects the affordable housing point or not on the south side.
I think that's a whole nother and large conversation.
Yeah.
And that other piece of commercial. But I think, Kevin, from your perspective, if your property ended up in a village mixed use, it seems like that would allow you to do what you wanted to do, which is essentially allow your abutters to, it be a permitted use again with the current.
Yeah, that was listed as the third alternative on my proposal, but I listed it as the third one because I didn't want to affect my neighbor's zones for no reason.
Yeah.
But again, our definition for that is, as Marion pointed out, the definition doesn't work, and it's if I remember correctly, it's living above commercial below.
Correct.
So it doesn't really, that's not going to work for you either.
And multifamily is obvious. It's funny. It's 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Without 2.
Oh, okay.
So maybe again, so we got to throw out all these options to figure out what best fits, but maybe that 2-family is a definition we add for the yellow zone as it exists, and look at this as a long-term problem we should be looking at. I mean, let this guy move forward with his two-family, and something we should be looking at is to change this long-term and how to correct that whole situation with multifamily.
Yeah, Stan again. So in that instance, I think we should separate the two yellow zones.
Hmm.
I mean, if you're gonna, because the north side is two family all around him. There's apartments across, and then the south side is more, and lays out different use. So
I mean, I agree. Again, I think if we add this use, we define this two-family use and put this out there, knowing that we have to correct it long-term, I don't think we're getting an influx while we're looking at correcting this. We're not gonna
no,
get
because there's
34
small areas.
applications, yeah. So again, I think maybe that's the best option. We won't hold him up. We'll know we have to study this and look at this a little better. Knowing that there's a need for a two-family. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I like the two family.
Anybody else?
Two-family is fine with me as long, yeah, that's fine.
Because
And we can, go
ahead.
ahead, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, there's no great solution here, and I don't want to spend 6 months, holding up one guy while we figure this out.
Right.
I think if we fix this now and then long-term look at this as a whole, I think that's probably the best solution, but that's just me.
So Tony, can you, just for me, because I'm a little slow at the moment, just clarify your recommendation of a resolution to put forward?
I would think we would have a definition added to the, I don't want to give you the wrong zone, the yellow zone.
Yeah.
That would allow two-family homes for now, and then long-term, we'll look at how we fix that. Because I think everybody realizes there are two-family homes here. There's a need for two-family homes. If we start here and then correct it the long way, I think that's maybe the best solution, but it's not perfect by any means.
Yeah, it would be different if it was a bigger area and there's one that's
Right.
surrounded by the two family homes. But this area is condensed, and I think they set this map so they could eliminate the two family homes where
Mhm.
we need them.
Right?
So
Yeah.
just structurally, would we add that would like split up section 10, if you want to go back to the regs, Tony, it's section 4.10.2, which is currently multifamily. Kind of split that into, just because all, the numbers are already taken. There's no, we could call it 104.10.2A.
A and B,
Multifamily and then two family.
Yep.
And for the time being, just add that to general commercial.
Right.
And so that would become Mr. Teskey's application that you would receive tonight.
Yes. All right, so is that good with everybody? I know it's not perfect. Also a motion.
And you might want to, if that's something that Kevin would find okay.
Yeah. I actually, I had come up with that solution. I just thought that it may be a little bit extra from what you guys would want. So that's fine with me.
Because this is your nickel.
Right. All right, so
So this will be, we're going to amend the language here to accept this, then to go to a public hearing to change the language in the regulations.
That's correct. There would be a public hearing next month.
Yeah. And Tony, just clarify for me, did you say two family by special permit or as of right?
I mean, the only time,
Or site plan.
yeah, or site plan. It's your guys' choice. It is special permit, and the only multifamily use is special permit, so it's your guys' choice. There's no motion yet, so. if it were me and I was gonna craft a motion, I would put two-family use in the multifamily residence section 4.10.2 by special permit in the general commercial district.
By general permit or special permit? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Special permit in
Special
the
permit.
general commercial district. Somebody.
Tony, you don't know
Sounds
how much I want to
good.
make a motion.
For me, I'd say it was Mr. Green and the conservatory with a pipe, but what you recommended, Tony, I think I think that's the best way to go at this point.
Thank you. So that's, somebody made that motion? And then somebody seconded, yes? Who were they?
I'll second it. Stan will
Okay.
second it.
Dan,
I'll
thank
take the motion, Tony, if that wasn't, I thought it was your motion, but
you. All right,
if you're not making it, I'll be your proxy.
okay. So Alan made it, Stan seconded it. Chris, how votes you?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Bruce?
Yes.
Jonathan, I'm gonna skip you because you wanted to be recused. And that just leaves you, Marion.
Yes.
All righty. We will see you next month.
Does he have to, well, we do the change in the words, but then he has to come back with also a special permit.
So yeah, this is not over.
No,
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't think so.
It's
All right.
zoning, it's never
I know.
over.
Right,
Well, at least he's got a path forward now.
true. Okay. Let's see, there's no public hearing this evening. Audience of citizens. So this is citizens may address the commission on items that are not listed on the agenda. So if anybody has anything they want to bring up. Yes, no, maybe so.
Tony?
Yep.
Gary Clark here, 46 Laurelwood Drive.
Yep.
I'm just wondering if there's any more information on 199 Stevenstown Road.
All right, John.
I don't know. This is the first I'm hearing of that. Gary, could you elaborate?
That was pretty funny. Thank you, John. I needed that.
I believe Mr. Papusha is still finishing things with wetlands, but he's actually coming into town hall to talk with me next week about forward progress. And there was no, I believe any representation that he was taking brush from Chester was a misstatement. And he is not taking that. It's apparently, he told me where it was going, and I'm waiting for verification from the first selectman in Chester about that, but I tend to believe that.
All right. Well, I just got to keep asking.
All
See you
right.
next month, Gary.
Thank you very much, John.
Anybody else, audience of citizens? All right. Hearing none, moving on to approval of the minutes. Everybody had a chance to read these? Go through them? Any changes? If not, look for, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna make the motion to approve.
All right, looking for a second.
I'll second that, Tony.
Thank you, Alan. All right, Chris, how about you?
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes,
Dan?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Moving on. New business, informal discussion on outdoor dining. So I think John was talking about spearheading this because the state has made this,
Right. So, well, there's a couple of things that motivated this. Well, first of all, so the governor did sign a law that essentially puts into effect the outdoor dining executive order that has been in effect, basically since June or so from COVID, that allows, restaurants and also retail to establish, sort of outdoor dining or display and use part of their existing parking, to provide for outdoor dining at, with social distancing put in place. And that will be that law is in effect until March of 2022. So another 11 months. And so, places that had indoor dining are now allowed to have outdoor dining, for another year. But in the meantime, it might be a good idea to sort of look at how we deal with outdoor dining regulations in general. And then, so that's sort of, sub point 1, and sub point 2 is, there are a couple of places in town, and we're thinking specifically of the Scandinavian Club, which are sort of pre-existing non-conforming, membership clubs that have, indoor, restaurants and alcohol, that had sort of a patio thing that they're working on. But we sort of need to talk about how an operation like that could move forward or could not in the future. So that the specific question came to us from the Scandinavian Club. So outdoor outside seating there, yeah, which is really, it's not considered in any, sort of non-commercial zones. But there are a couple of places that are gathering spots, sort of pre-existing, and outdoor dining would not necessarily be a bad thing, or outdoor gathering.
I was gonna say, the other thing is, how do you tell these guys that they can do it for 2 years in a row and then go, you know what, it's all done, we're taking it back, I want my tables. So I agree. I don't know how you address some of the stuff like you said, though. That's not in a zone like, it's not allowed in that zone. Anybody thoughts?
Shoot.
No, you're good, Marion.
Huh?
Oh, I thought you were going to say something earlier.
Well, yeah, no, I was going to say something, but it's like they're clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the regulations about private clubs, so I was going to try to go and look at those. I think the only problem might be because if they're in a residential zone, is just the noise level.
Right.
And again, I don't know does the governor's order do any limits on it? Can we do any limits on it? Because I agree with Tony. I mean, you can't allow something for a couple of years and then say, oh, sorry.
Mm.
On the other hand, if I was next door to the Swede Club, I might have some, reservations.
And you would not be alone.
Right. Yeah. You would have to get in line.
So I'm gonna pick
Although
up.
I should say, I live across the street from Calamari's bar. So, I'm used to noise and stuff personally, but.
The difference there is that that's an existing but approved use.
Right.
Correct.
Not non-conforming. I have to come clean here. I abut the Swede Club. And personally, I'm not going to speak about the club itself, but I'm not really in favor of the expansion of non-conforming uses. If it's non-conforming, it's a matter of it was there previously, doesn't fit the pattern. It should be allowed to continue as it is, but an expansion of that use to me is a change of your zoning regulations to permit something that otherwise wouldn't. So it's especially when it's a use that has special considerations. The consumption of alcohol in a predominantly residential neighborhood is there's constraints on there. So I'm a big believer that there's allowance discretion, but when you begin to expand a non-conforming use, we need to take that seriously.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I don't disagree with you. It's a residential neighborhood. It comes on a little side road. But again, they've been doing it for 2 years. I mean, I don't know. I'm on the fence about this.
Well, the Swede Club has always had an outdoor presence, I mean, when the weather permits. It is not mostly an eating establishment. There are dinners, people rent it to do big dinners. But it doesn't serve on a regular basis that I can recall, unless maybe a hot dog or a hamburger. So are they now asking to formalize that?
I think what they're doing.
I think they, yes, they would like to, they sort of built a patio area, which, is just a patio until people put tables and chairs and start drinking there, and then becomes an outdoor seating area. But right now it's just an exercise in grading. Although, during the time of outdoor dining, they can do that. But yeah, they would like to formalize it and sort of have a legal path forward.
Can we define an area where it would be least likely to affect the neighbors, like down and back?
Yeah, I mean, so that you would then be essentially wanting to have special exception control, special permit control.
Oh, yeah, we're just asking to ask the zoning officers to do more police work.
Right. Well, because right now in the time of COVID, I mean, they are required to not have like live music and you have to like not have objectionable noise and odors and whatnot. But we don't have the same sort of lockdown of those things.
So I've got a quick just question, my feelings on it. This is Stan. So the pandemic has affected a lot of people, and I don't think that it should carry on through the residents that live around that area. Yes, they were granted outdoor dining for this period of time, but I don't think they should continue on with it. If they need to continue on it, they should move on somewhere where it's allowed and it's not going to affect people around them, because the area is not big enough to support outdoor. They can't have live music and stuff like that. Yes, now it's just for eating outside, but if they want to extend it out and do other things, it's going to be more disruptive. I don't feel that it should be pushed forward that way.
Okay. Anybody else? Opinions, thoughts?
Would it be, so who is, John, you have sat down and talked to the people from the Sweet Hall?
Mike has, but yeah, we're in touch.
Oh, okay. Doesn't matter. You're the same person.
Right. Right. Except, yeah, but only half of us are able to answer your question.
Right.
I'm not going to comment on that. Have they tried to define exactly what it is they're asking for? Are they just, so far, we're just talking about, can we?
Yeah, no, I don't think they haven't come up with any formal proposal. I think they're looking for guidance.
Oh, boy.
Well, maybe we need to have a site walk with, a couple of the people in charge there, so that, I don't see otherwise how we can try to regulate.
Well, it's not, they're not looking just for themselves, right? They're looking to make a zone change, so that would affect other properties. So, do we know which other properties? Like, we know the Red House, it's in a zone where it's, sidewalk and seating is allowed and all that stuff, but Calamari's is a good example. Is he gonna keep doing outside stuff? I think I'm gonna have to look now.
Tony, this is Bruce.
Yeah, fire away.
And I think that probably Alan and I have got the same problem, because I'm adjacent to it insofar as the tracks only separate our property from the Sweet Hall.
Yep.
And once in a while, having big parties outdoors and a lot of noise isn't so bad. But if we're going to open it up where they're allowed to be doing food and loud noise on a regular basis, that's going to be kind of imposing on on the residential areas around them, I would say.
I mean, my thought for that is you could always limit the hours and just to seating, no, no outdoor music.
That's been the issue. It's always got the music. It's always loud.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I think you probably hear that from your house quite well as well. Yep.
But again, so let's just say it wasn't just them. So it is, it would affect Russ because he's in a different district.
Yeah.
What about?
Hey, Bruce, I meant to respond to you. The sound doesn't travel to my house too badly because I've got a stone ledge separating us. And usually if they have events, it's down on the lower section behind the building. But where they've already built their pavilion foundation and roughed in the electrical and plumbing is up on the high end of the property, which is essentially eye level with my house at this point. So it is a very site specific issue for me personally. But the expansion of that use, I think it would be a significant issue for the neighborhood because it is a neighborhood predominantly with small children, and there have been traffic issues with people leaving, driving at high speeds from that establishment. So me personally, as an abutter, would not in favor of expansion of that type of use. And they're talking about an expansion. It's not a continuation of an existing pattern of use. They're proposing to build a new facility to expand their operations. If we're to talk about allowing the continuation of outdoor dining in areas where dining is a permitted use, I'm 100% in favor of that. I think that that's a use pattern that is beneficial to the town, beneficial to the businesses, and I think it's in line with the plan of conservation and development of making the town a walkable town with the continuity of those social patterns. But when you're talking about an area which is a non-conforming and exception to the use pattern, I think that it's a different consideration. So we need to be clear on what we're talking about here. If we're talking about a general discussion of the continuation of outdoor dining, that's something that we're talking about an existing approved use. If we're going to talk about a continuation or expansion of a non-conforming use, it's a different discussion. And that's not a discussion of outdoor seating or outdoor dining.
Well, and this is directed at Mike again. Sorry, John. I think that the Sweet Hall management ought to come forward with exactly what they're talking about in terms of area, a site plan in effect, and with the topography. Alan is shielded, but the former CEO and her husband who live across the street at number 11 are protected by nothing. And that's, they've managed over all these years. I don't know how it is down around the corner. But Riverview is certainly nothing if not residential.
Yeah, I think Lee Balducci would certainly have an opinion. The former CEO that you're talking about has moved from that house, Jonathan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they moved a couple months ago, but we do have residents in there.
Oh, damn it! She didn't tell me.
You're not up on everything, huh, Jonathan?
I guess I'm not.
You're letting me down here.
Well, I mean, if not to shortcut the discussion, but we can circle back and just say that we'd be looking for some sort of formal proposal from them, and put it in their court.
Yep. And then we can invite them to a meeting and then have a general discussion. You guys having had advance notice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we can do that.
All right.
But I think that the way that this conversation was framed as a discussion of the continuation of outdoor dining, we should continue that conversation as well. And I would be very much in favor of looking to, formally extend that because it, like I said before, I think it absolutely is in line with our plan of conservation development of the village district in particular.
Okay, we can look at proposing some language for that too.
All right, moving on. We had commission bylaws, the attorney markup. Does everybody eyeball this? I think it was Alan.
John, can you explain, there was some areas that were highlighted, but they weren't necessarily comments. Saw one comment where, there's indication, yes, we're allowed to do that. But I just wanted to get clarification if these highlights were things that were of concern to the attorney or perhaps just a vestige of other editing.
So the version that I have does have comments. Tony, I don't know if how you save this. Is that a Word document or a PDF that you've got open?
PDF.
So I have a Word document that shows all the comments.
There you go.
So I don't know what was. I think the version that I put into the OneDrive is the Word version, so you can open it up with
Yeah, I think it is.
like a full markup view.
Well, the version that I have in there is the same one that's on the screen, which just has the highlighted text. And
Tony, if you want, I can share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just getting to it, but if you're already on it, go ahead.
All right. All right. Can folks see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
There we go.
So so he does have, so in this version, and it may not be, there's a lot of comments here, so it's probably not worth my going through step by step with stating his comments in each of them if this is the first time you guys are seeing it. So it might be just more productive to table this and ask you guys to take a look at his comments, and we could also in the interim prepare sort of a revision based on his comments and give you guys a clean version that sort of responds.
Good,
But
good.
but I would hope that, well, I'd ask that you guys all check and maybe download this to your personal computers and open it up in Microsoft Word with a the full comment full comment view, or I could probably try to save this.
It is in the OneDrive as a Word
PDF.
document. It just, when
Yeah.
I printed it to PDF to make quick note and then totally forgot about
Yeah.
the comments on the side.
So if people haven't gotten a chance to look at this in a detailed way, it's not worth our time going through it line by line this evening. But
John, were there any big issues? If you give an executive summary, were there kind of deal breakers in here, or everything was kind of just some nuances to language?
Yeah, no, I think there weren't any big deal breakers. He had some, I think there are some questions of sort of taste and practice, is like, does the commission mind doing this way? He things that he just wants to make sure that people understand what the implication is, rather than, there was, very few places where he's like, to get rid of this, there's some repetitive language, but there, yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything earth shattering.
Okay. Is everybody all right with that table in this, reviewing it over the next month?
Yeah, I think that's the best use of our time.
Okay.
I think we're close, and
All right. We will. Do we need a motion to table, I guess? Just to be official.
I make the motion to table.
Thank you, Marion. Second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Alan. Chris,
Yep.
Bruce,
Yes.
Dan? I skipped Jonathan. Dan?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Aye.
All right, perfect. Informal discussion, sorry, moving on, informal discussion, adult use cannabis regulation. You know, I thought about this because we did bring this up last time, and not that I think the town should weigh their opinion on this. And I'm not sure this is 100% correct, so I'd have to look this up. But someone mentioned to me that, let's say Deep River did have regulations in place before the law passed, then we would be like somebody who wanted to do a dispensary or something would show up here, and that would exclude the surrounding towns from getting the permits. But I'm not sure that's 100% true because we don't have any of this in front of us yet. But I think that may be the way it works in other states.
We did a number of years ago have discussions when it was when we were talking about commercial plants processing plants.
Yeah.
And we talked about security and big fences and things like that.
Mhm.
I don't know if it ever if there's any record of it. I mean, it must be in the minutes or something. Nancy's old enough to remember. Sorry, Nancy.
Get somebody in trouble, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, I mean, this is just informal. My gut is this isn't just up to us. I think the whole town should weigh in on this. But again, anybody else have an opinion on this?
Absolutely.
So you agree with me or just absolutely?
Well, I was going to ask you to share. No, I do agree with you. I think there's no way this cannot be a public issue.
Right.
I think, we've got so many other issues to talk about to devote a lot of time before we even know if it's legal. We might be putting, what is that? The horse before the cart or the cart before the horse kind of thing.
So just other towns, so like Clinton had this talk and they said, no, they don't want it. So people are doing it. And Massachusetts, New York, and Rhode Island, well, New York just passed theirs and Rhode Island is going to. So we're surrounded. Anytime the surrounding states do something, Connecticut usually follows suit. So I think we should be out in front of it. But again, I think the town as a whole should make the decision, not just us.
Yep.
I agree, Tony, that it's a town issue to discuss. I also think that the zoning should be weighing in on that discussion in terms of appropriate areas in town that it might be a viable use. Again, it's a type of use that's probably incompatible, with some of the uses that we have in town. You wouldn't want it, or I'm assuming you might not want it around the school district or recreation areas that are more family or children oriented. But there are areas in Deep River, and again, I would point to the general commercial district on the south end of Main Street, which has a more industrial character and commercial that might be conducive to this type of operation. So maybe there's an opportunity. I think it's a discussion to be had with economic development, but I think it's a discussion. It's a broader cultural discussion. But somehow we should be getting this on the agenda to be discussed in town. So maybe this is something that's brought up at the joint meeting. So economic development weighs in and say, yeah, this is the right type of business for Deep River, or they could say it's the wrong direction for business, and get that opinion out in front of the town as well. So I don't know how you foster that discussion, a broader discussion in town, but it certainly does have some zoning implications.
Well, I mean, we are going to have that joint meeting if that's next Thursday. Not to ramble on because I was going to bring this up later, but if you guys are all right with that, I'm going to be there. Do you mind if I'd like to bring it up to them? Say, what do you guys think? It's something that's come up. We want to talk about it. If you guys are all right with that, I'll bring it up to them.
Yep.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah,
I think we could have that 3-board group sort of host a,
Right.
an open online forum to have people talk about it.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. All right. ZEO reports. I know you've been waiting for this, John.
I have. So things continue to be very busy. We are, sort of continuing to chase down some of those ongoing, sort of long-term zoning questions. 199 Stevenstown. There's the property on West Bridge Street that has all the cars where we've been meeting with neighbors about that, continuing to do research. We're talking with our attorney about the legal subdivision down Westbrook Road, 105 Westbrook Road. And what's the fourth big one? Oh, had a bunch of meetings with some folks who recently bought property on, it's off of, shoot, what's the street? It's down near the landing, which was just a hold on.
Not the 13-acre piece, the guy who runs the barbecue all fired up, not that piece.
No. So this is a strange little piece on River Lane that some folks bought and believed that they actually had two building lots there. There's a house on one of the two, and they believed that they basically had another potential building lot. And they have taken, unfortunately, an unbelievable amount of our time digging through old deed records and old assessors records where the acreage of the parcel changed in the 90s. And they wanted to know why, and thought that they actually had two parcels and had another, basically that they bought, a lot right near the river that they could build on. And so we finally, ran it to ground and determined that there was either a mother to son appendage of a portion, like a lot line adjustment, essentially, or an illegal subdivision. But either way, they didn't get another lot there. It's a small lot. It's 3/4 of an acre total, and one existing house on it. So it's mystery solved, but boy, these things take a while when we're digging through. And the problem is there was just a lack of mapping done. Like when property changed hands or was split off, it was all done by a deed and not by map. So it was really tricky to run to ground. Even with a surveyor as your first selectman. Anyway, so that, just if you're curious about the nitty gritty of how we've been spending our time. Anyway, the good news is the steep grants are all signed. All the contracts are signed. We're proceeding. Mike and Angus and I are sort of dividing and conquering, getting quotes on all the different technology upgrades that we're putting into place. Which is, again, new computers at Town Hall, an online GIS, and online permitting, virtual meeting, AV capabilities, and some electronic sign boards at the school, the fire station, and the field there towards the south end of the village. So we're getting bids on all that stuff. So moving forward. And there's some light there, so that's great. Also, I believe I don't know if this was forwarded around. Hopefully, it was. The region, the RiverCog, is moving forward with their regional plan of conservation and development, and is having their first sort of public rollout of it. Oh, there you go. Thanks. That's maybe correspondence. I'll spoil it a little bit here, but. So that's a week from Monday, the 26th at 7 o'clock. So I would, you guys are planners in the region. So I would encourage you to attend if you're able. And then they're also moving forward a little bit more slowly on a regional affordable housing plan, which will have municipal sort of appendices or municipal annexes that will hopefully satisfy each town's requirement per Connecticut General Statute Section 830J, which requires every town to do a 5-year plan for affordable housing. So that's proceeding, although they haven't scheduled the first meeting of that yet. But we're staying in touch with that. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer questions. Oh, I think I did add a thing about legislative update. So in addition to working with the town, I also, with my professional planner hat, work with the Government Relations Committee with the Connecticut Planning Association. We've been tracking a lot of the legislation relative to zoning and housing. Most of the bills that we had testified on and been tracking, including Senate Bill 1024, the so-called Desegregate Connecticut Bill, House Bill 6611, which is the Fair Share Bill, and 6107, which is the reorganization of the zoning enabling statute, all moved forward. They were all passed out of committee about 2 weeks ago, and are sort of in, the virtual smoke-filled backroom discussions now to figure out. I've been told that the Planning and Development Committee members want to kind of cobble the best ideas from all of them and just forward a single bill that will address zoning and housing. I suspect that what that will include is the reorganization, which is really no big change to the zoning enabling statute. It just makes it make more sense. They probably will include as of right accessory apartments in residential zones. It will probably include mandatory training for planning and zoning officials, which is probably going to be in the range of 4 to 6 hours. Probably 4 to 6 hours initially, and then maybe or for a 2-year term, because most commissioners have like a 2-year basis, and then sort of refreshers every couple of years. But none of that stuff is finalized yet. But I would expect that there would be some mandates relative to zoning and housing coming down this session, and we'll continue to track that. So I think that's all I've got, unless people have questions.
Any questions for John? If not,
No,
go ahead.
John, I got one question that,
Yeah.
In regard to, I saw a report today in regard to what Essex is doing with their overlay districts. The fact that they
Yeah.
have an overlay district that abuts Deep River's general commercial zone. Have they notified Town of Deep River in regard to what the implications might be of their change of their zone to our abutting zones?
So
What?
the
Turn
first
around.
part of that, I would say,
Oh,
I don't believe it does abut the town boundary area. The second thing I'd say about that is that the overlay or the special development district reg for Centerbrook has not been written or proposed yet. And in fact,
I know.
we're still kind of working on it. What we'd written, and for folks who don't know, I'm also the consulting planner for Essex. Their plan of conservation and development recommended certain redevelopment nodes, including Centerbrook, Ivoryton, Essex Village, the Route 9 Exit 3 Gateway area, and Bochum Corner, as like sort of special development district redevelopment places. And so the first step there would be to create a regulation that would enable special development districts, and then to geographically land them in different parts of town. But we're still months away from sort of finalizing the proposal, and we're starting most likely with the Route 9 Gateway area, which is not going to affect the Deep River
Okay,
boundary.
so the Route 9 exit is at exit 3, not
Exit 3, yes, it's not exit
Okay.
4.
Okay,
So yeah, good question.
but
Glad-
it still may have implications, especially as we're on the cusp of visiting our plan of conservation.
Mhm.
development.
Yeah, Essex is going to try hard to eat your lunch.
And that may be my follow-up question too, is unless we're gonna have a separate conversation of budget. I know the town is developing our budget presently. Has there been any discussion in regard to those budget discussions to planning and zoning's budget needs, especially as it pertains to revisiting comprehensively our plan of conservation development. Because if I'm not mistaken, we haven't done a comprehensive look at that plan in more than 10 years. We've done an administrative update, but I believe we're overdue to update that report. And I think it's in our interest to be asking for the budget to execute that task.
Tony, that's on you, right?
I was just gonna say, so I did meet with the budget committee. They are aware of our need for regulation change. We put in a number for them. They haven't gotten back to us with finalization of any of that stuff. They did say that they are aware of the need to do the plan of conservation development, but they're not gonna do it over lump sum. They'd like to do sections over an extended period of time. So we're still going through that. So instead of just doing one lump, hey, we'll do the whole thing tomorrow. Look at the first section this year, the second section next year. So they were more open to that.
But the budget committee is not going to drive our plan. Essentially, it's planning and zoning that's supposed to be driving the study. It's a study that's.
Are you gonna eat or do you want to wait?
It's
Should I make
required
your plate?
on a regularly scheduled basis, and we're overdue. So can they say that, well, we're not going to give you the money to execute this? I mean, I think we need to be pushing harder and say it's something that's overdue, and we need to look at it in context of the overall budget. I believe that there's been, other studies that have been funded. And this is not a discretionary one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have help at the next meeting, Alan.
I'll do what I can, Tony. I'm
right.
absolutely, whatever I can do to help. But I think personally, I think that this is important. I think this is something this issue's been raised over the past few years. It was something that was raised by Peter Howard for several years before he passed. And I think it's falling on deaf ears at this point.
Yeah. No, that's unfortunately where we're at. They're willing to give us some money, but it's going to be over a dragged out period of time.
Can we write a letter as a commission?
Yeah.
Sometimes people either respond to actually, written letters because it becomes part of the record. And I was just going to say, in dealing with planning and zoning for, 25 years or so, there are times the squeaky wheel does, get attention, and, we may need to show up as a commission to one of the budget meetings.
Could we suggest to the Board of Finance and the selectmen that as a kind of a compromise, that we would divide the POCD into, let's just say 3 or 4, no more than that. And that we would do them each budget at a minimum of, let's say, 1/3 of it in successive years.
There you go.
Unless more funding became available.
Right. So 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 is not crazy.
I don't know if that's makes any sense. I don't know how much, either Mike or John will have to tell us what would be a reasonable expectation of a cost over, it's going to take a year anyway.
If we dive in and tackle the whole thing, yeah, it's probably a year to 16-month effort.
And John, can you clarify too what our obligation is in regard to the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually very gameable, if you want to put it that way. I mean, you are required to update it at least once every 10 years. Or to provide a letter to the Secretary of OPM explaining why you haven't. But update is very openly worded. So we could go in and sort of say, no significant changes right now and change the date and, have a hearing and pass it, and that's considered an update.
That's what they've been
Right, so it's, the only real, feet to the fire about actually doing a sort of a comprehensive plan of conservation development is kind of self-directed. But, if we were legitimately in danger of losing out on discretionary funding because the plan was overdue, it's a relatively simple process to re-adopt.
But isn't there an obligation for public input on this plan?
Yeah, you'd have to have a public hearing.
A lot of them.
Well,
We have done-
you're only obligated to have one.
Well,
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, if as are you asking?
Do we have record of when
Yes.
the last one was? Any public hearing on the plan of conservation
Oh,
development?
geez.
we'll have to look that up.
We have tweaked it over the years, probably not very recently, but certainly I would think.
And John, and I think, Jonathan, that's my point, is that we tweaked it, but without any public involvement. And so we can track some changes back that have been incorporated to the plan of conservation and development administratively.
Okay.
That I don't believe there was necessarily any public support for. So.
Okay, and I can't say whether we did solicit public opinion or not, other than our open meetings and perhaps a public hearing.
It looks like there was a survey done in 2007. That's not a public hearing, but there was a townwide survey done as part of at least the plan that I have.
That was preparatory to the last full plan we did,
Right.
Which probably is dated, my guess is 2009 or so.
And the one I have is adopted October 15th, 2015.
Which
So
was-
maybe that was a revision.
That was an administrative tweak.
Okay.
So.
All right, so we got work.
So I'm going to be a squeaky wheel and try to push this forward, because I think it is something that is really important in regard to our planning efforts. Because I do think our POCD is very due for a revisit, especially in light of some significant changes that occurred around the time of the last comprehensive review, which was the village district, et cetera. So.
Well, how about if you could come up with a fairly accurate but not specific program for putting this forward? Could we go to the boards and say, if we started in this fiscal year timidly, could we then over the next 2 fiscal years, because we know it's going to take at least a year anyway, probably a year and a half, and maybe get them to come up with enough so that by the time July 1st, 2023 comes, that would be the beginning of the last year. It might be a little bit more palatable to them.
So, do you want to write a letter? Do you want me to see if I can get us all back in front of them and have us all show up?
Well, I would like this. I'd like at least there to be, as Marianne suggested, a letter from the commission.
Okay.
That's a consensus letter from the commission that this is an imperative. If we agree, again, I'm talking about my opinion, what I'd like to see happen. And then certainly, as many of us to speak to the issue as is necessary. I think the letter might hold as much water as us attending, because we're not necessarily all going to speak. But
I think a letter from the chairman, and if we can be not promise, but sort of pretend to promise that we could do this over 2.5 fiscal years at a projected cost of XX.
Yep.
That gives them something to hang their hat on too.
Okay.
John, can you come up with a rough schedule perhaps, or what would be a logical, how to kind of almost like a working plan, you do population first or housing first, or just,
Yeah.
an outline. and maybe how much it might cost for a consultant.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to avoid the answer, but you know, with consultants, and Tony probably knows where this is going. You know, the answer to how much it costs is how much you got. You know, and you know, you base the scope around the budget, and it would be useful. I would like this to maybe have a small subcommittee, maybe 3 or 4 of you tops, to kind of just take a look at the plan with us and talk about what you might like the new one to look like. You know, because there's so many ways you can go. Well, not so many. You know, there's a half a dozen ways you can go with how you update the plan. And scoping it and coming up with a schedule would be much easier if we got a sense of, you know, kind of what kind of plan we want. You know.
John's looking for volunteers.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to avoid answering the question. Is what I'm looking for.
So who's going to volunteer for the subcommittee?
I don't know. I think we ought to table that question.
I was gonna nominate Alan.
Well, I mean, Alan, yeah.
And I was gonna pull Marianne with me. I mean, I'll contribute if she contributes. I think, Marianne, I think you have an awful lot to contribute on this with your experience. I'm certainly, I'm willing to volunteer to do it.
So that means you're
I
doing
solicit your assistance if you're willing.
Sure.
Fantastic. I think you got 2 good people there, John.
Alan and Marianne. Okay, so I'll reach out to you guys and we'll see if we can find a time to sit down, or you know, in person or virtually.
Right, and then
Do we have any of the old heads who have been through this before into town of Deep River that'd like to join us?
Yeah, well, those guys are the ones that got us in this mess in the first place.
Yeah.
That's right. I have a bad reputation for having a lot of good ideas and then disappearing. So I would not be doing justice to the commissioner myself. However, I am always glad to sit down and talk and try to recollect what was and why it was. So if you want to put me down as an available
I'll include you, John.
historian,
I was gonna say the same thing. I mean, I'm available. I don't want to commit 100%, but I am available if you guys need anything. I mean, John knows you can get me anytime.
Jonathan, as kind of a historian on the commission, who else was integrally involved with the prior major effort back in, I think it was 2007? Was that Nancy Fishback?
Jefferson, who I know would be happy to share herself. Nancy Fishback, I don't know if she's up north or down south, but she was our workhorse for 10 years on redoing the regulations and the POCD. And if she's available, I know that she would be happy to, you know, help us on specific issues.
Yeah, even to have a discussion with her, help frame the effort would be beneficial.
I think Bruce's wife did a lot of this too. So I mean, he's on here. You can always ask her if she's available too.
Yeah, here's my guess.
Right.
No, but
okay.
But I'm not going to speak for her or for Bruce.
Okay. I mean, just throwing that out.
Let's start with Marion and Alan and John, and we'll copy you, Tony. But okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. Let's see where we're at here. So we're down to attorney. Anything from the attorney besides the other comments from the bylaws?
That's it.
All right. Engineer. I haven't seen anything. You. Regs committee. Well, that's coming. I don't think we have anything yet. Chairman, I got a whole slew of things I was just going to throw out real quick. The planning and zoning land use seminar that happened virtually this year, and I attended, and by attendance, they send you the recordings and the slides. So if anybody's interested in that, it was an all-day thing that they do to update you on current regulations and things that have changed. A whole bunch of attorneys did it. So if anybody would like it, let
Tony,
me know.
if you want, you could just throw it in a folder on the OneDrive.
Perfect. I will do that, and it's available to everybody.
Sesame seeds sprinkled.
EDC. They have hired Advanced CT to assist with a town survey. And they're having a discussion on this on Monday, the 19th at 7 o'clock, which is this coming Monday. So if you guys are interested in what they are looking to do with this survey, I would suggest you attend.
I'm sorry, who was, say that again? Who was doing the survey?
Advanced CT.
At EDC's behest, did you say?
Yep.
So Advanced CT is the former CERC, the former Connecticut Economic Resource Center.
Okay.
So yeah, anyway, Monday, 7 o'clock, I would hope you guys would go to that. I'm quite interested. I'll be there. I'm pretty sure Alan's gonna be there. Hopefully you guys will show up. I'm gonna flip over to, if the little thing would get out of the way. There we go. So, back in the day, the River Cog started this whole thing with the Green and Blue Way, about having a trail along the railroad tracks, and the River Cog did a whole study about it. It kind of died on the vine, and it's back. And apparently, this is actually up for serious discussion now. And it looks like the big push now is because they decided they're going to put a bridge or a walkway on the bridge over to East Adam. So, quick glance from, I looked at this and said, oh, this is kind of neat. I like the hike, all that stuff. But the problem is when you get down to our little town here, there's nothing. So I'd like your guys' input on how to get something out to the River Cog and be like, hey, don't forget about us here. We're part of the whole cog, and we have stuff that's down there, like the landing. I have questions because I don't know all the answers. Like, is the town landing open to the public? So should that be on there? I mean, it's a public launch, it could be a boat launch. Also the Becky Thatcher's Park down there. Can you use that? Do you have to take the train? Can you just show up in your car and take that? I don't know these answers, but I think those are right there and should probably be on this map. Anybody else have any suggestions? I know I'm just throwing this out there. But also don't need an answer because I am going to do this one more time. And I also going to, we have the joint meeting coming up, so I'm going to bring it up at that as well. Anyway, you guys would just keep that in your mind.
No, I agree with you, Tony, that just kind of the absence of the Becky Thatcher, even if it wasn't a recreation opportunity to pull up, park there and go out on a boat, it's still a landmark. Just,
Right.
If we're highlighting things like the Blue Oar Restaurant, and just that amenity, the fact that we do have the landing, the boat launch, and the Becky Thatcher there is important. It's certainly important to economic development as well. I know that I forget his name, I'm losing his name right now, but there was an effort to put in public moorings.
Right.
So, I mean, it may be a small thing, but we certainly are part of this.
Yeah. All right. Like I said, I won't tie up the whole meeting with this, but I just wanted you guys to be aware of this. And if you come up with something, I'd love to hear about it.
Tony,
yeah.
have you spoken to the selectmen about that?
I have an email into him. So now I'm going to call and harass him.
Because he's been thinking, and I've done some research, preliminary from the landing south, to have a walkway or a something way going down the shoreline like that. He would be he would be in favor. He would be on our side.
Yeah, he and I have talked about that specifically.
Oh, good.
But no, I'd want some more input about that part of it. Let's see, regional plan, if you've talked about that. Again, the joint meeting is next Thursday. That's wetlands, EDC. The land trust shows up now, so it's kind of growing. I was thinking about maybe asking the Merchants Association to show up, but I'm gonna ask everybody else's input before I do any of that. Anyway, again, next Thursday, 7 o'clock. Hope to see some of you guys there. Moving on, budget. We discussed that already. Payment of bills. I haven't seen any. I don't know if Nancy has any hidden somewhere. John?
I don't have any.
Here and
I
now?
don't think we've requested any assistance in the last one.
All right. That's it. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, just before you do, can I, speaking about the cannabis that was tabled,
Yep.
maybe for our general education, I'd be happy to lead a site walk down West 4th Street near Sheridan Square
Okay.
and show you where I used to walk barefoot.
I still
Anyway.
see you walking barefoot, so we're not gonna get in it. You know, I have to back up. I don't mean to get you guys so close and take it away, but I'm gonna back up to something that we did before. So, quickly, we talked about this before COVID, pre-COVID. We talked about changing the Gateway Conservation Zone. It, for some strange reason, runs down the railroad tracks to make
Oh,
a long
yeah.
story short. We've talked about this, and we haven't done anything. And I think the best course of action, I've talked to Angus about this, and John's probably sick of hearing about it too, but is to get a letter from all of us asking the Gateway Commission to change it. Instead of us doing all the legwork, they're the ones who put it there. Give them the ultimatum, move that line, do the study, fix it so it's not taking, like, right now, the high point is along Book Hill, and they put it along the low point in the valley. Doesn't fit there. So anyway, I would like you guys, I mean, I'm gonna ask John, but I hope you guys are on board with that. Just to flip real quick. The green line next to Book Hill is where it is in Essex. I've tried to find it in Chester. There is no zoning map. So anyway, that's my spiel. If you guys are on board with this,
Roger?
You want to do a joint commission letter, Tony?
yes.
Good.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Tony.
Fantastic. Sorry to put them.
I'm in, Tony.
Thank you. So that's it. Anyway, so now we made more work for John.
Wait, why is that more work for me?
'Cause well, you gotta write the letter.
Is that right?
Hey,
Okay, I missed that part of the motion. Thanks.
Yeah,
Tom.
no, there wasn't a real motion. We were just,
Hey, Tony?
Yes.
Just to maybe go a little further with, where do the selectmen stand on this?
I've asked Angus about this. He said same thing. It's been a problem. It's a known problem. If we write that letter, he is on board with that.
What about them writing the letter as well?
He'd be willing to sign it.
You could probably have it jointly signed by the two commissions.
That's fine with me, if that's all right with you guys.
Yeah, because I, you know, it's in the interest of the town. I mean, holistically, I think.
Yeah.
And
That sounds good.
it should, we should get as many, you know, as much behind this as we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, all right. Even more work, John.
Okay, I'll draft something up.
Thank you very much. All right, anyway, looking for a motion to adjourn.
That one.
Yeah.
Anyone? Everybody wants to stay, huh?
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
second.
I'll
Second.
second it, Stan.
All right. I'm assuming everybody's gonna vote yay, so if you would, just yay or nay.
Yay.
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 All right, guys.
Yay.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, Tony.
Thank you. Have a good night.
I'll see you all Thursday or Monday or Thursday.
Maybe both.
Thank you.
Okay, so how do I get?
Have a good night.